Hey there, Miss Wyatt here, and today I want to talk about support and support systems. So, what I've realized as I've accepted my ADHD and bipolar, and is that when we talk about support, or when most people talk about support, they usually talk about the bare minimum, like what is expected of people to do when we talk about support, like oh, like listen and just all those kind of things. And what I've realized is that supporting someone in a meaningful way needs to go past the the kind of expected stuff. If someone is struggling, we expect people to to be able to be there, to be there and allow us to like vent. We expect people to, for like someone like me who has ADHD and bipolar and doesn't make a lot of money, my family buying my medication is, you'd assume that is something people should be doing. But more often than not, those things are not the norm. It's more like the exception. And it's a very sad thing because support needs to go much further than that. And when, especially for like a neurodiverse person, where a lot of things are not, um, I'd say, set in stone, because my ADHD is not necessarily someone else's ADHD, and my bipolar is not necessarily the same as someone else's bipolar, or someone's dyslexia is not the same as another person's dyslexia. Um, we need to stop focusing on the cookie cutter solutions of what support is supposed to be, and we need to start supporting each and every individual person. We need to start thinking about how so and so can be helped to get the most out of them with their diagnosis. And I think for me that is the most important thing. And with a lot of my friends, that's what has helped me through like my university life, is that my friends were willing to assist me despite everyone expecting me to function as a neurotypical, everyone expecting me to function within the borders, the boxes. And when you think about it, as for someone like me with ADHD and bipolar, trying to function within a society or a system that is not that does not work with how I function and does not work with my truths, it gets to a point where either A, I burn out, or B, I get so frustrated that I completely shut down and then burn out. So eventually I end up burning out. And when you think about it, those are I think those are the things that frustrate us as neurodiverse people, is that we're constantly supposed to fight for things that are supposed to help us, and yet at the end of the day, our frustrations, our struggles, our our differences are not acknowledged. And this is where a lot of the, or everyone has a bit of ADHD, or I'm so OCD. These sayings, they hurt us, because when you say something like that, it shows that even if you say you're going to help us, you're not going to support us in a way that is meaningful to us. It is all about how you can support us in a way that is meaningful to you. And that is something that needs to be changed. We need to stop focusing on how society can support us in a meaningful way to them. We need to move away from and this is why I always say, um, a lot of the systems when it comes to psychiatry and psychology are not patient oriented. I always say that it is caregiver oriented because at the end of the day, the people who are the most supported or who are the support systems are most catered to are the people who are around the people with the diagnosis. And so, when I was in university, I remember the one thing I used to struggle with was getting people to understand what ADHD and bipolar were and what they weren't. Yes, I could go off the deep end, and yes, I do go through bouts of depression. I do go through very manic stages. I do, but my manic is not me being hyper aggressive. I'm not going to go out there and try to fight everyone. My ADHD is not me being hyperactive. If you actually met me on a regular day, I am not a very hyper guy. I'm more so like hyper in the sense of like my brain is going at 1,000 miles an hour. But that's just me. That what I go through is not necessarily what someone else is going through. And what I go through is not necessary. And just because someone else says, "Oh, this is what I go through and this is what I feel," doesn't mean that's what everyone with ADHD, everyone with bipolar, everyone with this calcula, dyslexia, autism, that is not what they go through. We need to start. I think the reason a lot of support systems for people with mental illnesses, disorders, disabilities always fall through the cracks is because at the end of the day, we are not fully consulted. Everyone has an idea of what they think that system is supposed to be, and then they push it off to us and then tell us this is the best we can do for you. Take it or leave it, which that doesn't help us. At the end of the day, you're telling us because you already have an idea, you think you know what we need, that anything we say is just to be dismissed. And that is the biggest issue, I think. So, at the end of the day, with support systems, we need to, what is it? We need to you need to talk to, you need to talk to neurodivergent people because at the end of the day, we know what we need. We may not be the best at vocalizing, but when we've gone for years where what our concerns and frustrations have constantly been sidelined because, or you're just overreacting, or you don't know what you're talking about, or you're young, you don't know what you're talking about. I've been at your age before. This brings other complications, and it brings a whole complication of others. Others have tougher struggles than what you're going through, which when you're in the middle and upper class, that is usually the one, and you're divergent, that's usually the one thing that keeps coming up. They're like, other people, people are going hungry. Of course, people are going hungry. People don't have houses. People would kill to be in your position. True, but that doesn't dismiss what I go through. That doesn't dismiss my frustrations. That does not dismiss my struggles. And it's that dismissal of what we're going through, I think, is why I feel like a lot of support structures just do not work and will ultimately always not work because we're always focusing on the wrong thing. We're always focusing on how we can get a neurodivergent person to fit into a neurotypical world instead of taking the things in a neurotypical world and seeing how we can modify them to fit that neurodivergent person. Notice I have not said neurodivergent community, because at the end of the day, even if we take something, if something is taken from the neurotypical word and fitted to someone like me, that doesn't necessarily assure us that what has been fitted for me is going to work for someone else. And that's why a lot of these cookie cutter solutions on how to tackle like forgetfulness or time blindness or um emotions, usually those cookie cutter solutions don't, the reason they usually don't work, especially when those are solutions coming from a neurotypical, is that they don't take into consideration like something like, for me, how my emotions are very intense. Like if I get sad, I become really sad. If I question something like how I interact with someone, I don't just question it for like a minute or two. I might question it for like an hour, a day, a month, even a year. I have questioned interactions for years. Heck, I still question a lot of interactions with my closest friends to this day, and that's because those things like that are not taken into consideration. We are not looking at the base issue of how we can help a neurodivergent person. We're looking at how we can, quote unquote, fix a neurodivergent person so they can act more neurotypical, which is a very problematic approach. So I think when support is taken, when steps to bring a support structure or support plan are being considered, especially when it comes to like medication therapy, work and school, I think a lot of the solutions have to come from the neurodivergent person and have to take into consideration the neurodivergent person, not just the people around them. So that's kind of my opinion on support and support structures, and just how they influence a lot of people. I hope I make sense. I hope a lot of things. I hope it's very. I explained my point very well, and if you're new, please subscribe. It always helps. There will be links down, and if you want to support me, financially. So yeah, thanks, and have a good day.